your hairs? What is going on over there?
I
Okay.
just showered, so it's like all
Okay.
messed
No,
up.
it was these. You had like one that's actually like poking out. You need to trim them, actually.
Probably do.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Nick and Vivi podcast. Today we're going to be looking at relationships and joint finances. We've identified 3 different models that go from the 3 musketeer model, which is on this side of the spectrum, all the way to completely separate, which we call like the roommate model. Whether you're just starting out as a couple or you've been together for years, this episode is going to be for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our other episodes for a lot of other topics that we'll be discussing in the future. So let's go ahead and get into it. So is it icebreaker time?
It's icebreaker
It's
time.
always icebreaker time. I'll let you have it.
So for today's icebreaker,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually pretty cool and pretty easy, I think. It's what is one thing that you didn't like before but you do now?
Asparagus.
Asparagus.
I hated it. But now, give me a steak and some asparagus, little potatoes. Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
I think most kids don't like vegetables when they're younger, but asparagus is one of those that's just an acquired taste.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I would say it's yoga.
Really?
So because I'm a busybody, I used to think that I wouldn't be able to sit through yoga because it looked like you needed to just actually sit and not do anything. And just the thinking like, am I going to be able to sit and not do anything? I didn't think I would. But then I actually tried hot yoga for the first time. A friend asked me to join her and I was like, you know what? Let's try it. And I thoroughly enjoy it. It's actually very relaxing. And I think I enjoy actually the peace and quiet.
So wait, so you didn't like it before, or you didn't think you would like it before?
I didn't think I would
Okay,
like it
all right.
before.
I didn't like asparagus before. Okay, now I love asparagus.
Okay.
So I don't think I'd like hot yoga though. I could probably do cold. That's not a thing.
No, it's
Yoga,
not
regular
a thing.
yoga.
Just regular yoga.
Just cold yoga.
Yeah. So,
Oh, good.
yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
So today we're talking about finances, which it's actually a hard topic for a lot of couples or like a lot of people that are in relationships. Yeah. What about, I think for us, when we started dating, we like talked a little bit about finances and how we felt about them, right?
Yeah, I think it was more like wasn't as much of. So it wasn't as much as like relationship finances, right? Because you're dating, you don't want to talk about what we're going to do with our money going forward, right? So it's more like you try to ascertain somebody's spending habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what do they think about money?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just this thing that you can just burn, and if I get to zero, I get to zero, or is it somebody that's like, I don't spend anything, I just want to amass a massive amount of money in my savings account and I feel secure? Or am I going to blow it every single night? I think that's in the relationship, you're trying to figure that part out.
Mm-hmm.
But the joint finances, I don't think a lot of people had that conversation. I don't think we had that conversation kind of like that, like we're talking about today.
Yeah. Maybe
But-
like after we got married, I think we talked about, or we were about to get married.
We got engaged.
Yeah.
I'm sure like that at that moment we were like, all right,
Yeah.
like we can start talking about
But we did
future
talk.
plans and things like that.
But I do remember we talked about, because I actually did have quite a bit of money saved
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't. I remember we had that conversation. We were actually just dating, not engaged.
I had more bills than you did.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not even fair. I had to pay rent, utilities.
But you also would splurge a lot. Anytime you went
Sure.
out with friends, you'd be like,
Okay, I don't talk to them anymore. Okay,
by choice or.
we just drifted apart.
So
That's fair.
tell us about.
And I had a motorcycle,
And you had a motorcycle.
which is just an absolute not need. It's a want. So.
Which is gone. You decided to get rid of it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Just for the record.
And nobody made me. I did that one on my own. But
So you were sharing at first that we have like there's kind of this spectrum of the ones we're going to talk about today, the ways in which.
Yeah. So I was trying to think. I was thinking, and if you were going to go, if personal or joint finances were on a spectrum, what's the one side and what's completely the other? And I think that one side would be nothing is together, right? It's all separate. You have your account, I have my account, we split the bills. Whatever you have left over is yours, that type of thing. And to me, that's the same idea as if you had a roommate where you just split rent, you split utilities, but everybody has their own money, right? To me, that's the roommate model, right? And then on the other end is where if you think everything's split, then it has to be everything together, right? So everybody's paycheck, every utility bill, groceries, everything comes out of the same account. Everything goes into one, everything comes out of one. So to me, it's like the Three Musketeers model, right? Which is, all for one and one for all. But
Todos para uno y uno para todos.
exactly. But I think we sit right in the middle. And I think that a lot of relationships, even if they're on one spectrum or the other, they lean more towards one and the other. So it's a good, play, kind of like a good baseline.
Yeah.
But we can talk about how we do it and how we think it, it works really well. I don't know if you.
Yeah. And I think, there was, of course, like the cultural aspect too, because in Guatemala, like usually all the money goes into one account, which is the other spectrum, right? But let's talk about the roommate model, which, I mean, aren't like spouses or couples, like, aren't they like a roommate?
No.
Nope,
okay, not getting on board with that one. Sorry. You might be roommates at the beginning, but I feel like once you get married, right? Okay, maybe. No, if you're dating, you're not roommates, okay? You have a roommate. You may not see them for weeks at a time. You just know they're there, and you kind of just split the bills.
Okay.
I
never had a roommate, so I wouldn't know.
I have.
My sister was my roommate, and we paid no bills.
Well, then you may not understand.
I don't.
The electric bill shows up, and it's $100. You chip in 50. They ship in. Usually, you Venmo, or we used to be PayPal, but Venmo, Cash App, whatever, to the other person, and they would just pay the bills, or vice versa. Maybe you paid the internet, and then they would pay the water bill, something like that. But anything outside of that is yours, just as if you were living by yourself, but all your bills were in half, right?
And so there are couples that actually that are cohabitating, like couples, married, whatever it is, partners. They use that model that we're calling the roommate model, which is, hey, you know what? We're just going to split it halfway, and, here it is for the bills to pay, and I'm going to take care of my own, like whatever it is that I need to do, right?
Which, I mean, yeah, and if some people want to do that, that's fine. I just think that it creates, like, disparity. If, one person has a super high paying job and the other person doesn't, and it's just the way it is. I mean, you're gonna have somebody walking around with a new car, new clothes, new everything, and the other person is not, just because you're only paying the bills.
And it's split halfway. Yeah.
So that would to me, it causes like some animosity, a little bit of resentment, starts to become an issue. And so I guess if you made the same, it wouldn't be as big a deal. But
yeah, because one of the things I remember, I brought this model up, right? Because I remember someone sharing with me that that's what they do, and then I brought it up to him, like, how would you keep up with like every expense? How do you? I mean, we can barely keep up with our expenses and the things we have. And it's like, how do you keep up? Like, how would I know, like, how much I owe us? Like,
so all right, so when I had a roommate, which I know you don't know anything about,
that's a cultural thing, by the way. No, because technically in Guatemala, I wouldn't be able to leave my house until I was freaking married.
Okay,
so it's a cultural thing.
But you don't know about this model. Then,
I don't.
Okay?
I don't.
And people out there with roommates, maybe today you have a roommate. I had plenty of them. I know. What happens is, normally, just like if you were dating, I'll get dinner this time, you get dinner next time. I'll get groceries this time, you get groceries next time. Not everything gets split in half, right? Like, you kind of just do it that way. Is it perfect? No. But does it do a pretty good job? Yes.
So it's like when you go out with friends then and you're like, let me get this,
I'll get
I'll
the
get
first
drinks.
round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. Okay.
So you kind of do it back and forth like that just to make it easier, right? But I don't see how the roommate model actually would work like long term. I feel like it would be a big issue sooner or later, you know?
Yeah, because one thing you and I also talked about this was the fact that you brought up like the pay. If someone gets paid more and someone gets paid less, like we talked about, like, so what happens with cars, right? Like,
Yeah.
what if I need a car but you don't need a car? Do I end up paying my car by myself? And it's like, what if I make way less than you do? Then, like, what does that look like? And am I still going to be able to give half of it? But because now I have this. So, and I really have no idea how you would do that. Like,
I can only assume that either you pay your own car, right? That's one way, or both people treat it as a bill, right?
yeah.
But then that means you have to have the conversation of, well, do we get a Bentley or do we get a Honda, right? Like you got to have that conversation. It really would depend. If somebody makes more, they have no problem paying half of a lot more, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works out.
That's interesting. Yeah. But so that's the first model, right? Just the splitting in half and just thinking like, what does that look like? The inequities of that actually, and me paying half of it or you paying half of it, and you may not have that much, but I earn more, like, what does that mean for you?
And some people will say, well, then the other person should just make more. But shout out to teachers.
First responders.
Yeah, I mean, not every job pays well. It's not even fair. Like, so and that shouldn't penalize you, which it kind of would in this situation, is if you had a job that was lower paying just because that's the industry. For whatever reason, you're getting penalized in your relationship because that's what you chose to do. What if you're an artist? That's your calling. That's your thing. You just don't make a lot, but your other half is, a investment banker that makes a lot. You are in a deficit in this relationship. And I don't think
using that model, right?
Yeah.
Using that model. So do you want to jump into the other side of the spectrum and then share the in between? Or what's the next one?
So
the Three Musketeers model.
The Three Musketeer model. Okay. It's catchy. So in this model, I think that everybody's paycheck goes into one account. So let's say you have one checking account and one savings account. Everybody's paycheck goes into the same account. And then everything comes out of that account. Everything. Cars, groceries, gas, Starbucks, everything comes out of the account. You're just swiping one card, everybody. Okay. Sounds like a nightmare to me. Just trying to, like, every month trying to figure out where all your money, that would take me hours, especially with all these little bitty, purchases here, there, whatever. I feel like it would just be a constant. We have to sit down and figure out where the money's going and hope nobody overdrafts it and hope nobody spends more than they're supposed to. And it all comes out of one, right? So, in theory, it sounds like it would work. Sounds good. I just think it would be managing it.
Yeah.
Even though it's all one account would be a nightmare, I think.
So this was actually a model that my parents used and managing it. So I remember my dad, it'd be like, all right, the statements here, let's go through it. And my mom hated that. I hated that because I knew, like, it was actually a lot of tension between, like, because my mom would overspend or you only had like a certain amount, but it was like every month, sit down, let's figure it out. And he would be like, why are we spending on this? We shouldn't be spending these little things. He's like, why so little things? But that's something completely different. But it was this whole, like, on a monthly basis, figuring it out or talking about what is the budget for groceries? What is the budget for this? But the thing that I do remember is, like, my mom didn't have her own money. Like, she couldn't go out and buy a Starbucks if she wanted to. And so, or my dad would be like, why are you spending on this? And so that was actually like, she didn't have the freedom to spend her own money too on whatever she wanted.
See, and yeah, because then every purchase you'd have to justify, every one of them. And not every purchase is justifiable. Some things you just buy.
You would know that. Right.
If I start to get real sweaty when I sit here and go, how would I explain to Vivi that I needed this? And I know for a fact she's going to be like, no, you don't. But I want to buy it anyways.
Yeah. Which is why this model is not the one we do.
So
use.
So one side you have animosity because there's it could be a pay issue, it could be, whatever. And then on this side, it's like you have to justify every purchase just about if the other person just does not agree with it.
Yeah.
That's not fair. I mean, there's things that you want that I will never understand, right?
Yeah.
And again, you shouldn't have to justify it to me. Not unless you're emptying the account, right? I mean, at that point, you got to justify
right.
why.
Yeah.
But I think it causes issue as well.
I guess like if there's, and all of these I think essentially would work. There just has to be a lot of communication, which is
a lot.
True for.
You have to be on the same page.
Have to be on the same page and be open with like, hey, you know what? I'm going to need to spend extra this month. This is coming up. And for any of them, right? Because communication is key in everything. And not just in finances, but usually finances is one of those topics that couples really don't like to talk about, or they're like, man, I don't know how we're going to do this, or they really don't communicate really much about. They're like, whatever, this works for you, we'll just do it that way. But it is like it requires a lot of communication. And so with the Three Musketeers model, it's that part of all the money is into one pot. Yeah.
Like a big cookie jar. Everybody has to go and grab what they need out of it constantly. I don't know. But if you go from there and you take the other one.
Wait. I would say it sounds like it would be so much easier to have one that everything comes out of versus like having to worry about our model, which we'll share. But I will say it does sound pretty amazing that it all comes out of one place.
Nope, I think our model is perfect.
Our model is good. I agree.
Since I come up with it and I manage it, I have to say it's perfect.
You do manage. He
with
manages
an asterisk
the finances.
on the end, okay, because it's obviously not. It could be better. It always can be.
He manages the finances and he pays all the bills and everything. I make sure he doesn't overspend. That's where I come in. So,
let's be honest. Anything that has triple digits in it, you start to sweat.
Yes.
Okay. I don't sweat on the triples.
I do.
Okay. Well, so that's how you keep me in line. Is if it's over $100, you're like, why? Why are you doing this? That's fair. Yeah, I think that's a good threshold right there.
Okay. So sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So if you take one spectrum and the other and you bring it closer to the middle, you kind of have what we've got, right? Where you've got one checking account, which is our joint checking account. You have a joint savings account, which is our emergency fund, right? You have an account, I have an account, and then we have a joint credit card. And that's the model, right? So usually I get paid into my account, which keeps my account active, right? Because you gotta have either direct deposit or a certain amount, so it keeps it from charging us fees.
And I do too.
Right. Your check goes into yours. And then we take our checks minus
our allowance. And
that's the kicker is that we kind of believe that you work all month, you work every day, and if everything goes in the same pot, you don't have anything to show for it for yourself, right? And that sucks. So we decided on there's a certain amount that comes out of on a monthly basis that you get to keep and I get to keep. The rest of it goes into the joint account.
No questions asked on how you spend your allowance.
Which is the kicker for the whole thing is that all the bills, all the car payments, the insurance, the everything else comes out of the joint account. And then your money and my money, you can use it for whatever you want. You don't have to justify it to anyone. And if you can't afford it, you better wait till next month. Better save your pennies, right? So that's the deal. And anything that if we go out together that'll come out of the joint account.
Mm-hmm.
If we go out, like we have to go do something together,
Like a friend's birthday party
right.
or anything that involves family or friends where we go together.
Like even if it's your friend's birthday, we got a gift for, comes out of ours, right?
Right.
That's just the deal.
Yeah.
But if we got food at the house and you decide you want to go buy lunch, that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's the way it should be. Like you have to make that choice.
Yeah.
We bought groceries out of the joint account and, so you want Starbucks, by all means, you can have $400, however you decide the amount is per person, you can burn that up.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
So get you a machine at the house that comes out of the same budget, and that way you don't have to buy Starbucks on your own.
And buy snacks with the grocery money, and then you can just take the snacks. You don't have to buy them yourself. There's a whole ways around this. But it allows you to purchase things that like maybe you want, but you really can't justify it coming out of the family budget.
It's a splurge.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be a splurge, right?
But it would be the first thing to go if we ever got in trouble, right? Like if before we even touch the emergency fund, if like you and I both lost our jobs, the first thing to go is the allowance, right? Like that's not happening anymore. It's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until we get out of the crisis, and then we go into savings or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not pulling out of savings to give to each,
right.
So it's the first thing to go and the last thing to come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything else comes out of the joint account. And like retirement and stuff like that all comes out of the joint account. So the only thing you and I have are those two splits. Now, we have side hustles too. Side hustle money you get to keep and I get to keep, and that's the way it works out. Until you make it your full-time job, then at that point, it's all bets are off.
Oh, no.
But, I mean, that's a paycheck then. Sorry, that falls on a different bracket.
I'm going to have to rethink that.
But it's a mix where most of the money all goes into one place, but you also get your separation, and it's equal, right? Like you don't get more because you make more, or I don't get more because I make more, or vice. We just decided here's the amount. We both, we're happy with it, and you get and I get.
Which I think for me, because I am very frugal, I like even deciding how much we each get for as an allowance. Like I struggled a lot with how much was enough, but not too much. And we just changed it.
Why did we do that?
Because it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. Why wasn't it enough?
No, but here's the thing. I don't think it's fair. I just need to not have any friends. Friends, I love you. But I have a lot more friends than you do. And so...
Point one to being antisocial, enjoying being at home, playing video games, and not traveling a lot. Guess what? You have a lot of money to spend on things that you really want, such as computer parts, computer gaming parts, cameras, stickers, whatever you want,
right.
Shout out.
And
You're
those
such
of
a
us
social
that...
butterfly.
So... And this was one of the things that, like, I do have more friends and I am very sociable. And so there were a lot, because you weren't invited, because it was just me and my friends to hang out, right? Like girls or just hanging out or going on trips with my girlfriends. I didn't have enough money to do all of those things. And
she was living outside of her means.
I really was for a little bit. My bills were always paid. But yeah, and so I asked if we could actually up that amount to be able to, like, just be able to have enough to do all these things. And
which is a win-win for me, because I didn't need it, and just got a pay raise, so I was very happy about that. But yeah, I think I think the way that we've got it mixed like that works really well. And if you're still trying to figure out the best way to do it, I'm not saying it is perfect by any means, but you can probably adapt that idea, at least, where you've got one central spot for most of the things.
Yeah.
An emergency fund to cover everything. And, 6 months is usually a good rough estimate of your bills. And then you get a certain amount and I get a certain amount. It's the same amount, but we both decide the amount, whatever it is. If it's $50, $100, whatever. but there's no judgment. Like you can burn it up. Makes
Yeah.
it much easier to do the bills at the end and to be able to see how much money we have left. And I don't have to sit here and go, why'd you go Starbucks 5 days this week or whatever, right? Not that you do, but I'm just saying.
Right, I don't.
You go to
I go to Chad's Chai.
Yeah, I was going to say, just replace it with whatever.
Support local.
I think that it works much better.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe our way is not that great. Maybe there is a better.
Right.
And if there is, let us know. If there's like anything that can make it better, I'm game. But
it's definitely worked for us. And I will say one other thing, like I remember I talked about was because at first when we started doing this model of like you have your own and you have your own, it was well, where should my haircuts come out of, right? At first my haircuts would come out of mine, but then it was like haircuts for women are really expensive.
They're not for us too bad.
They're so expensive. And so I was like, this is taking up like a lot from my allowance and that's not fair. And so like we talked about it and we ended up adding our haircuts into our pot, into our joint account versus like our personal ones. And so that was one thing. And then also the other one we added was like our clothes for work, right? Which that was also one we ended up like later on adding because we were like, well, should it come out of our personal, like our clothes for work? And so for work, we decided, you know what, anything that's for work that we actually need.
It's insane.
Yeah.
You know, we both don't have a number, but we just kind of know it is what it is.
Yeah.
But anything outside of that, you know, that should be on you. And we came to those, that kind of evolved.
Yeah. It's changed.
Your makeup is another one, right?
Right.
Like,
makeup.
you need it for all facets, right? I mean, it's not just for you, right? Like it's a thing. So therefore we decided, okay, that would come out of the joint account as well. And then that's fine. But we did cap it, right? We were like, okay, X amount per year, you know, if you want to buy all kinds of other stuff, then that should come out. And we were agreeing on that. We were fine with that. I think if you evolve it and try to decide what makes more sense to come out of the joint or who's getting, you know, hit the hardest with things they need, right? Yeah. That's a different story.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have evolved it. That's true.
Yeah, we reevaluated to make it make sense. And so kind of like going back into the equity, you know, like I'm not gonna have any money left because usually haircuts for long hair are very expensive. And so like, you know, $80 or something like that. And so that was a whole lot. And that was taking up a chunk of my allowance. And I was like, no, that's not fair.
It's not fair. No, I agree 100%. Like,
yeah,
you can't just stop getting, I mean, you could, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, just let's bring the bar back where it should be. And that was one of them. So.
Yeah. But yeah, what else? I think that's like it for the way we do things. Oh, we did talk about we each have like our own credit cards too.
Yeah, I mean,
which, you know, those are like normal.
You pay them with your money. In my opinion, I mean,
yeah.
Some people don't want credit cards. Well, we have a joint credit card, and that's usually the buffer because we pay that at the end of the month, but we only get paid twice a month. So therefore, you could run out of money in the check-in before, like we front load a lot of our bills on the front end of the month, and then it all comes out. And so we just have the credit card to buffer the month. We don't carry a balance, so it gets paid at the end of the month.
Also, because we get to have points, if you have a credit card,
get points and miles.
Yeah,
for trips,
traveling. So it's a great way,
as long as you pay it off, because the moment you pay interest, pay late fees, pay whatever, those points are worth nothing.
Yeah. So if you're able to pay it on a monthly basis, the whole amount, then it works. If you're not, then don't do it that way. But that really works for us. And, you know, we continue to reevaluate. We're actually going to reevaluate soon as well.
Just rebudgeting more. Not the framework, but just, you know, how we're spending our money, where the joint money. Yeah. Burn yours up. I'll burn mine. That's not for debate. It's how we're spending, you know, on groceries or going out or whatever together. So yeah. That's a constant evolving type thing too.
But that's a model that I think has really worked for us, and Yeah, and so we wanted to share the model that works for us, and to, I don't know if anyone else has considered this model, but it really does work. And a part of that also is, again, communication, right? Like, we just have really open communication and open to just sharing, hey, there's this event coming up or whatever it is. Budgeting is a pretty, we try to follow budgeting to a T. Sometimes some months are not that great. But that means we have to kind of like hold it for the next couple of months to be able to still,
budgeting's a whole nother
whole nother topic.
Yeah, it really is though, because
is.
Everybody's got a different mindset on where the money should go. We're just more on the here's how it should be broke up from the get-go, and then you can but budgeting is that's a constant struggle.
Yeah, which we'll talk about that sometime in the future.
We're supposed to talk about it in the beginning of May.
Yeah. No, I mean like in the podcast.
I thought
you and I.
Us. Oh, okay.
Yeah. We didn't talk about it on the 1st of May because I was trying to finish with school.
And don't pull the school card.
Oh, no, it was definitely the school
card.
Nope. I'm going to pull the school card. I was struggling. But anyway, so those are the 3 models. The 3 Musketeers model, the
roommate model,
and
our model. I'm sure it's called something else. I'm sure it's some specific name, but we're going to call it our model. But let us know in the comments if you agree with maybe one of the other models. Maybe there's something else out there, or maybe you have an idea of like we could fix ours. Not fix it, maybe improve it. I'm open to everything.
Yeah.
I constantly want to learn something. So,
yeah.
But if you don't have an idea of how to do your finances, or you're trying to approach the conversation, there's your 2 spectrums. Here's what it is in the middle, and you can adapt it to however you want, but definitely have the conversation at some point in time before you fall into it and realize it's a little late. So definitely
definitely have the conversation about finances before you get into like the engagement phase, because you might not agree on something, and a lot of marriages actually end because of the finances,
because of money.
And so I'd encourage you to talk about the finances before and see if you agree with it. Maybe you don't, and it's like it is one of those things that you're not gonna give into or continue to, whatever it is, but you're not going to change, and that's okay. That person might not be it for you.
Fair enough.
So, but thank you for listening, for watching today. We hope to share another interesting topic next time. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
It's my thing.
It is your thing.